Hello everyone, welcome back to my Let's Play of Zelda Outlands. We're starting the second quest right now. We have our same ratty heroine, Chloe. And she got a doozy of a quest coming up right here. Much like the first quest, we're not going to start off with a sword. We're going to have to find the sword in one of the dungeons, but it's not going to be like the first quest where we just went right to the first dungeon, got the sword after 3 rooms. No, we're going to be doing a lot of hopping in and out of dungeons, picking up items, going back into another dungeon. It's very convoluted. We won't get the sword for quite a few dungeons. So, we're going to head here to the first level. The levels in this second quest are not given numbers. They're given letters, and the letters will spell out Outlands. So we have level O right now, but even though it's given that letter, it is not going to appear. The map of the dungeon is not going to be in the shape of an O, like in the second quest in Zelda 1. Where the first 5 dungeons, their maps actually look like a letter. So, level O is not going to look like an O, level U is not going to look like a U, etc. So, but we got our first item here, the boomerang. That's going to allow us to stun enemies and walk through them. A stunned enemy does not have a hitbox, so you can walk right through them. However, most enemies can't be defeated by the boomerang. There will be some that can be defeated, such as bats, little gels, tiny enemies, and that's all we needed to get the boomerang, because the next labyrinth we're going to go into is going to have some doors and blocks that we have to open and push, respectively, and we need to clear out the enemies, and the only way we're going to be able to clear out those enemies is by hitting them with the boomerang. So one problem is with the boomerang not being able to defeat big enemies is we're reliant on fairy ponds to heal our life. Small enemies like the fairies and the gels and the bats, they don't drop items, so we're stuck just avoiding enemies until we can get to a fairy pond. Luckily, there's going to be a fairy pond right outside level U, which is 1 screen south of where level 1 was in the first quest. So we're going to head our way over there. One thing you want to do, it'll be more important here when we get to the next dungeon, is you can manipulate enemy spawns. If you're trying to get through a screen and the enemies are in unfavorable positions, step outside the screen and then re-enter the screen and see if the enemies move further away. You can also do that, move a little bit closer to the exit, as you saw a few rooms ago. I headed over to the room to the right, moved as far south as I could. That way when I returned back into the initial room, I was very close to the exit and less chance to be hit by an enemy. So here we are in level U. So it's the second dungeon, obviously, that we can enter. And you might think that you're going to complete the dungeons in this order, O, U, T, L, but one thing, in addition to making the quest to get the sword really convoluted, is the bosses are really difficult in this quest. So we're not going to be necessarily doing the dungeons in the order that they spell out Outlands. For instance, here this is the second dungeon U. It's the second one we can go into. However, the boss to get to the fairy, we'd have to defeat 4 four-headed Gleeoks right in a row. Now, that's pretty almost impossible to do with just like, the wooden sword and, 3 hearts. So we're going to have to hold this one off until, much later in the game when we have, maybe the white sword or the master sword, more hearts and blue mail. So we're mainly going to be doing the dungeons in the order that, the bosses are easy. So we're mainly going to be looking for dungeons that have like Dodongos, which you can defeat with bombs, and then Dig Doggers, which you can defeat with Ocarina and bombs, before moving on to more tougher bosses like the Manhandlers, and then finally finish off with Gleeoks and stuff and those type of monsters. So now we're basically venturing into this dungeon right here because we have to pick up some meat. Meat plays a very pivotal role in this quest. A lot of roadblocks that are blocked off by hungry moblins. Here's a little roadblock here. Just trying to wait for this manhandler to go over to the left side so we can sneak by. It'd be nice if we had Pegasus boots from A Link to the Past, but we don't. So you just gotta wait for this guy to cooperate. If he doesn't cooperate, like I said, you can do just like in the overworld. You can step out of the room, come back in, and hopefully he respawns a little bit better. And he did. So here we are. We're gonna pop on in here. We're gonna grab the meat. And that's as far as we can go right now. To the left is a Goma enemy, and we don't have the bow and arrow to defeat it, so... Yep, we just got to backtrack out again, and we're going to head to level O. So now that we have the meat, we'll be able to go deeper into level O. Our goal is to go a little deeper into level O, past the room that's blocked by a hungry moblin, to get the ladder. And with the ladder, we'll be coming back into this room, this dungeon, to get another item, the ocarina. So, yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said there's a lot of backtracking. Come on, buddy, move. Yeah, we don't want to take these guys. The fireball and the contact damage will take off one entire heart, so we can't afford it with this at this early in the game. We just do way too much damage. So you got these guys. It's kind of annoying that these guys respawn after each time you leave the room. So we gotta leave, go back in, defeat the enemies again. Yeah, I guess it's the way they programmed it. Most monsters don't respawn, you know, for a few rooms. But now, technically, we could do the up and A trick, where we pause the game, we bring up the item menu, and then on the second controller, press up and A, and it'll take you to the continue screen. The screen where you can either continue, which is basically restart the game either on the overworld or at the entrance to the dungeon if you're in the dungeon when you use the continue. The save, which takes you back to the saves your progress and takes you back to the beginning, the title screen, or the retry, which takes you back to the start of wherever you made your last save, which in our case would be the title screen, because you haven't made any saves yet. So, or if you're not worried about, you know, having the perfect letter, the 0 by your name, which is the number of continues that you use, you can just take damage and, you know, death warp, I guess you can call it. But we'll be doing deathless, continuous, 100%, just like we did in the first quest. So if you haven't checked it out yet, those series of videos, I recommend you do so. You'll get to kind of see the different sprites. They did a lot of palette swapping here. Like the Gyarados and Stalfos swapped positions. The Gorias and Moblins switch positions, so we have Gorias out here that act like Moblins, and then we're going to go into dungeons and have Moblins that act like Gorias. So, speaking of going into dungeons, we're heading into Dungeon U again. Now, we're going to use the meat to, like I mentioned earlier, to get past Hungry Moblin. We can also use the up and A trick to save that meat, because there's going to be a lot of backtracking to get meat. Meat is very important in this quest. It's going to a lot of progress is blocked off by picking up meat, jumping in different things. So what you could do is, if you don't want to do a whole bunch of backtracking and, you know, speed up the process of finishing the game, I guess speedrunners would do it. You would lay the meat down in front of the moblin, and then while he's disappearing, you do the up and A, and then that way the moblin will disappear. But if you do the up and A, you'll still have the meat in your inventory when you come back into the room. So it's something you can do, but I'm going to be playing the game the way it was kind of intended, to show that you know, you can defeat it without, you know, resorting to trickery. Although we will have to be a little bit tricky to get past some of these enemies here, but no necessary glitches. So try to reset the enemy pattern here. Stun. Now, when you stun an enemy, like I said, they lose their hitbox, which is very important, because in this room, It's hard to see right there, but one of the Gibdos here that basically just functions as Stalfos has the ladder in it. Right there, we just walked into him. So when we stun him, he loses hitbox. That allows us to walk into him and pick up the ladder from his body. So now we got the ladder, and we can head back to level U. Go back to that one room, to the Press of the Cross room, where we have to kill those P-hats and push the block. And we can head over, use the ladder to head deeper into that area, and get the Ocarina. Chance to stun the enemies, walk past them. And we've finished with level O for now. That's a crazy level right there. There's tons of those moblins that are hungry. And there's tons of meat in that dungeon, so a lot of rooms like you just seems kind of pointless. You'll see later on. You feed a hungry moblin, and then you go into a new room, and you'll beat a bunch of enemies in that room to get more meat, because the next room over has another hungry moblin. So it's just like they just keep putting like a whole bunch of hungry moblins one after another. So kind of annoying, but yeah, so that's the game maker wanted to do, which is surprisingly the name of the person who made this hack. So we filled up our life, and now we're back into Dungeon U. And get used to a lot of this backtracking, minions, because it's not going anywhere. We're doing this a lot, so. Past these guys, we can get the key now that we have the ladder. The ladder might will help us also get these bombs over here. So now we can maybe deal with some of the manhandlers. We're going to have to pass through a room with a manhandler. Don't want to get hit by these guys. They take off 2 hearts. So, and the mummies that throw swords, the swords also take off 2 hearts. So yeah, they're not fooling around here in this quest. A lot of the enemies here dealing 1 or 2 hearts of damage. So 2 or 3 hits, and it's back to the title screen. Let's pick up the map here. As you can see, that doesn't look like a U at all. But we got lucky there. We got a bomb drop from the manhandler, and we defeated the manhandler with 1 bomb. So now we step over here, and hey, we got the Ocarina. Next, find a secret passage in the Graveyard of Serenity. Okay. Look. The Graveyard of Serenity is where level 5 was in the last quest. Now we're going to be able to go to the Graveyard of Serenity. The dungeon there is going to have the sword. But in order to get the dungeon to appear, we're going to have to blow the Ocarina to remove a tombstone. So that's why we had to do this backtracking to get the Ocarina before we can get the sword. So, but just makes you appreciate how valuable the sword is when you have to do so much, play so much of the game without the sword. So if you want to see people play the game without the sword, I recommend going on YouTube and looking up the Extreme Challenge quest, where basically people go through the game, the original Legend of Zelda, without the sword, and without picking up any upgrades other than the stuff that's needed. So, for instance, they'll get no heart containers, they'll get none of the rings, the blue or the red ring. So it's really interesting. So they basically just get to Ganon, and then they have to stop there because you can't defeat Ganon without the sword. But it's a pretty interesting thing. You have people do both the first and the second quest, and it's pretty crazy. But speaking of crazy, come back and join me for the next episode. Take care. Bye.